Attention, please. Eastern Airlines Flight 19, now ready for departure.
Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're entering the vacation kingdom of the world.
There's enough land here to hold all the ideas and plans we could possibly imagine. We call it Epcot. Will be our experimental prototype city of tomorrow.
Welcome to another episode of the Retro Disney World Podcast, taking you back to the vacation kingdom of the world, the way it was, and the way it is in your memories.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Retro Disney World Podcast. I'm your host, Todd McCartney, and tonight we have podcast episode 43.5, where we're going to be talking with Chris Debiec, who worked at MGM Studios doing the filming. Since we mentioned this in episode 43, that we'd have something coming up to go hand in hand with the game show episode, so I think you'll enjoy this. But as with me always, tonight we have Mr. Hal Bowers. How you doing tonight, Hal?
Aloha, doing just fine, thank you.
Good. And Mr. Brian P. Miles.
Yo, from Philadelphia.
How you doing tonight, Brian?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad. Can't complain.
Looking good, Todd.
Looking good, Billy Ray.
Feeling good, Louis.
All right. So before we get to our main topic here in our interview with Chris, we wanted to remind all of our listeners of the upcoming Lake and Lagoon Discovery Tour. There are not a lot of tickets left, but if you act quickly, you can still get on the tour. We've got a handful of tickets left. For those of you who may not have heard or are new to listening to us, the Lake and Lagoon Tour is a tour around Bay Lake and Seven Seas Lagoon with the Retro Disney World podcast crew. And at this time, we've been able to rent an Animal Kingdom Discovery River Cruise boat. So we've got plenty of space this time around to take you up close and personal to a lot of those different hidden areas and things that, you know, aren't there anymore. We can point out some things that maybe you can't get too close to, a la Discovery Island and River Country. And with a Disney boat captain on board, we can pull up a little closer to those. Maybe pull right up to the River Country slip, right?
Jump we'll just let everybody off.
Just let everybody. Careful.
Go for a quick dip.
Exactly. Go check on the Sentinel chickens for us while you're here. Okay.
Yeah.
See how those mozzies are biting.
Which one would actually be more desirable? Because you can get to River Country by land. Wouldn't Discovery Island be the one that people would most want to hop off the boat and explore?
Exactly. Just walking through there and over the little bridges.
Find some old Pablo Cruz 8-tracks laying around.
Just plug them in, kick back on the beach. That'd be great. So if you are interested in joining us, we'd love to have you. You can go right to retrowdw.com. And up in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the Lake and Lagoon Tour logo. Just click that to buy your tickets. Like we said, there's not a lot of tickets left, but we do have a very special gift. And guys, we talked about on other episodes, it's almost ready for production at this point. It is getting better by the day. I am so excited about it. And I think you said, Brian, it's a tough top to top the fountain from Epcot 35, but this is pretty cool.
It's the hallmark of classic Disney attractions and the theme parks was the attention to detail. And I think that it's fair to say that in this thing that is being produced, crafted, shall we say, by artists, that the attention to detail is second to none.
Yeah, I will have to, being on the art side of things, it's like every time I open this up and I see a preview of a section that's being worked on, it's like my jaw just drops because it's so good. It's really so good. And
at its core, and it's so hard to talk about it without talking about it, but at its core, it really does harken back to the era of Walt Disney World that we love, and that holds a special place that hooked all of us. And JT not being here tonight, he may not have the same affinity for this item that we do. But I can just remember sitting there poring over this item in the past when I was a youngster, and just being before I visited Disney World, after I visited Disney World. And so when you find out what it is, you're going to want to spend hours staring at it.
That's right.
Playing with it and dreaming about it.
And it's not the Pirates of the Caribbean keychain, right? We're not giving the...
No, it's the Western River Expedition, a full virtual reality ride through.
There we go. Everything you wanted.
We're constructing the ride piece by piece. Not really, guys.
No, don't get too excited. No. So we hope that a lot of you can come out on November 17th and join us for the Lake and Lagoon Tour. We do have sailings at 11:15, 12:30, and 1:45 available. Like I said, there's only a couple tickets left, so you got to get those. Later in the day, we will also announce a time and a place where you can come meet us afterwards, because as soon as one boat ends, we got to kind of jump on the next one and get the next tour going. So if you want to come meet with us and have a drink with us afterwards, we'll
a more relaxed time to just talk.
Yeah,
and
say hello.
Mingle, say hello.
Yeah.
Not very rushed, casual.
If you've got any cool ephemera to bring and show us, bring them along. We'd love to see it.
And we don't want people to think they have to pay to hang out with us.
Right. Yeah.
It's the tour is for you guys, the boat tour. This is just if you want to raise your favorite adult beverage or a cold sarsaparilla.
Yeah. Come
with
on,
the boys.
Come on up and visit us. So we'll let everybody know ahead of time where that is, especially if you're on the tour. We'll announce that via an email to everybody as well. But we're also going to do a free Epcot walking tour. That will be on Sunday, November 18th. We're going to meet at the fountain in front of Spaceship Earth at 11 a.m. And it's about a 1.5 to 2 hour walking tour, mainly of Future World, of all the different things that are still there and hidden, things that used to be there, some funny stories, and go around. And we did it last year. We had a great time. We had a nice turnout, and a lot of people joined us. And even some people bought real 35 millimeter cameras and took our picture, which I thought was phenomenal. Who was that, Brian?
Erica Rose Dade.
That's right.
So thank you for the pictures. We loved them.
Yeah. They were fantastic.
And you may get wet.
That's
just a little more. as I did on the walking tour last year.
That's correct.
We even that was where we had somebody who had the city card, right? We were able to get into the special meet and greet over at Imagination.
We had two things. We had some DVC members who took us up in small groups to see the Imagination Lounge for DVC members, and we did we combined our Disney Visa cards and got into the special meet and greet section up there as well. So.
That's right.
It was an added bonus. We can't promise any of those things. I'll bring my Disney Visa card.
We'll see. Maybe we'll have to Rochambeau to see who can go in. But we'll see what we can do. But we hope to see you there. We'll walk around Future World and
maybe if we're really feeling it, we'll move into World Showcase this time. You never know.
There's a couple stories we can tell there. Was it how the Denmark bathrooms? What is it?
That's
Well, there's all kinds of things. So much Epcot to discuss.
Right.
Yeah, well, everybody can stand in the spot where Alex Haley stood and promised us the Africa Pavilion.
Yeah, that's right. See you in a year.
That's right.
He didn't say which year. Don't be so specific.
We do know where that sign was. We have the light identified now and everything.
Yeah,
so
we can go recreate.
We can
recreate
point
that.
the sites. Here's where Israel was supposed to be. Here's where Spain was supposed to be. So we can disappoint you all over again.
Yeah, exactly. So again, head over to retrowdw.com, click in the upper right-hand corner where it says Discovery Edition, Lake Lagoon Tour for your tickets, and we hope to see you there November 17th, 2018. All right, Hal, so can you maybe give us a little overview here on what Chris did down there at MGM Studios and get us started?
Sure, Todd. Tonight we have the pleasure of having Chris Debiec on the phone with us, who is currently working on incredibly top secret projects with none other than James Cameron. Now, he worked with James before on some of the specials of Finding the Bismarck and the Titanic, which you may have been familiar with on the Discovery Channel, which was a big deal, and also the IMAX films Aliens of the Deep and Ghosts of the Abyss. But the reason that we're talking with him today is way, way back in 1989, maybe late 1988. He got his start at a little place that we're all familiar with called the Disney-MGM Studios. where he was a producer's assistant on all kinds of crazy things. And we are happy to have him share some of his stories at his time at the studio when it was fresh and new. So please welcome Chris.
Hi, guys. What do you want to know?
That's a good way to start. Well, first of all, how did you start? Were you a cast member at Disney and then transitioned into the production side of things, or how did you initially get your job?
All right. I usually, the story goes a little long, but I'm going to try to keep it short for you guys.
You're good.
To Penn State. I went to Penn State for hotel restaurant management. While at Penn State, I got recruited by Walt Disney World College program, and I spent 3 months down at Disney and did my internship. I loved it. Thought it was great. We, by the way, were the last class at Snow White Village. We destroyed that place, and then they shut it down after we were done. So we did that. While I'm at Disney, my manager said, "Chris, you're doing a great job." Oh, by the way, I worked at Captain Cook's ice cream shop at the Polynesian Village.
Nice.
And my 7 roommates loved when I came home because I brought waffle cones and old ice cream and all kinds of stuff from the store. So I did that. My manager said, "Chris, we want to offer you a job in the management training program. It's a 4-year commitment. You need to stay here at Disney, and you get to finish your education." I had 2 more years at Penn State, but Disney was willing to pay for it as long as I signed a 4-year commitment. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. Loved it. Within 3 months of signing that 4-year commitment, I absolutely hated it. It was no fun for me because I was working 40 hours a week and then doing 20 hours a week at school at night. So I wasn't having the kind of rip-roaring fun that we had while at Snow White Village. The way it's explained to me is that every 3 months, they move you to a different area so that you learn the management training program, and you do that for 4 years. So the next assignment I had was at Disney-MGM Studios before the park opened. They put me in the employee cafeteria dish room.
Oh
gosh.
Now, I was president of the Hotel Restaurant Management Society at Penn State. I was a cocky little bastard when I was there. And now you put me in the dish room? I'm like, really? So it's whatever. Anyway, so I went in there, and it was pretty miserable, kind of, as bad as it sounds. Every day, I'd play around. I'd throw ice out the little hole that you put your tray in. I'd make jokes. I'd laugh at people. And one day this lady came by, and she said, "Young man, you seem distressed. What's up?" And I said, "Well, I'm just not having a good day." And I told her my whole story. And she's like, "Well, you know what? We offer something called a cross-utilization program. You can come work with me and my department for the next 3 months if you can get your supervisor to sign off on the paperwork." I said, "All right, great." So I didn't know what she did, didn't care. I just wanted to get the hell out of the employee cafeteria dish room. So I went to my supervisor, and she didn't even look at me. I mean, she didn't even look at the paperwork. She just said, "Chris, we're opening up a studio here, and I need every body I can get." And I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just a body. I'm not even like a person, because, obviously we are opening a studio, and it takes a lot of people to do that. But, for me, I was just miserable. So this is going to be fun to hear. So I took off my little paper hat, took off my apron, took my name tag off, slammed it down, said a few expletives, and told her I quit, and walked out the door. As I was walking out the door, she said to me, "Don't use us as your stepping stone." And I looked at her, and I'm like, I have no idea what that meant at the time. So I was so upset. I went back to my apartment with my 7 roommates and called that lady who gave me the paperwork. And she's like, "Chris, calm down. It's okay. Why don't you come in to my office the next day, and you can talk to my boss, and we'll see what we can do." I'm like, okay. So the next day, they send me to a trailer way back on the lot. They're still like bulldozing palm trees and clearing lots and stuff. I mean, that's how fresh and new this was. So I go to this trailer, and I go in, and this lady that I saw before the following day, she said, "Just sit down. When my boss opens the door, just go in and talk to him about what's going on." I said, "Okay." So I'm sitting there. I'm a little nervous. The door opens, and I hear the voice of God. It's like, "Come in, young man." So I'm 21, maybe, give or take. I go in, and behind the desk is sitting George Burns from Oh God. If you remember that movie, Oh God, with John Denver.
Yeah.
I swear to God, the guy looked just like George Burns. It wasn't him, but it looked just like George Burns. So he gestures for me to sit down, and then he crosses his arms and says, "Tell me a story." I'm like, okay. And then I just start talking, and I tell him who I am, what I did, blah, blah, blah. And then, the last thing I say to him is, and then my boss said, don't use us as your stepping stone. I don't know what that means, but anyway, here I am. So, he's nodding and listening, and he takes off his giant Lou Wasserman glasses that he was wearing, and he leans across the desk, points his bony finger at me and says, "F them. You work for me now."
Oh.
And I'm like, okay. Again, I have no idea what's going on other than I think I just got hired. So he said to me, "Go talk to my assistant and she'll put you in the system and you're all set." I'm like, okay, thank you. So I go back out, talk to her. She's on the computer, looking me up, and she goes, "Oh no, Chris, you've been red tagged." I'm like, "What does that mean?" "Oh, you're a no rehire status for Disney." I'm like, "You've got to be kidding. That just happened yesterday." And she's like, "Yeah, that goes quick around here." I all of a sudden started shaking. I'm like, "What do I do? What do I do? Oh my God." She's like, "Don't worry about it. You're taken care of. Report to Bungalow 6 tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And I'm like, okay. And as I'm walking out the door, I said, "Oh, by the way, what do you guys do here?" I had no idea. So she's like, "Oh, this is the film and tape department." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Now, I'm walking back to my car and I'm driving home thinking, all right, well, I guess it's going to be okay selling 35 millimeter film and VHS tapes at the Magic Kingdom. Because that's what I thought film and tape was at the time. So the next day I report to Bungalow 5 and I'm told to report to this woman named Sally Hinkle. And they're, bustling. I mean, everybody's running around, going crazy, walkie-talkies everywhere. It's like, wow, what's this? So I go in and I ask for Sally, and there's this little 4'10" Southern girl from Nashville. She's loading coolers with bottles of water and soda pop and all that kind of stuff. And I said, "I'm looking for Sally Hinkle." And, Sally turns around and goes, "Yeah, I'm Sally. Who are you?" I said, "Well, I'm Chris. I'm supposed to be working with you." And she's like, "Oh, that's great. All right, well, listen, I need you to do this, 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 and this, and this. Now, how much experience do you have?" I'm like, "Experience in what?" And she goes, "You're kidding, right?" I'm like, "No, I don't know. I don't know what you mean. What am I doing here?" And she got so mad. She started stomping up and down going, "Gee, God darn it. They gave me another newbie. I don't want to train anyone now. Oh my God." And I'm like, "Sally, I'm a sharp guy. I can do whatever you need me to do. Just tell me what you need me to do." So she gave me instructions. And for that whole day, I was basically loading coolers, making coffee, all of that stuff. And at the end of the day, I say, "So Sally, what exactly is going on? What are you guys doing here?" And she just looks at me like stunned that I don't know. And she's like, "Chris, this is a television show. This is the 2-hour NBC television special for the grand opening of Disney-MGM Studios." And I just looked at her and go, "Oh, that's cool." So basically the first job I got in the entertainment industry was the assistant to the craft service girl for the TV show MGM, the grand opening. That's how it all started.
Cool.
Oh, and then, by the way, a couple of days go by and everybody that's working there, the PAs, the coordinator, everybody's like, "Chris, how'd you get this job?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. I went in and I talked to this guy, Jim Washburn, and then he hired me." Literally, you could hear a hush over the entire production office. The production coordinator stands up from her desk and says, "Chris, did you actually speak to Jim Washburn?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" "Well, you know who he is, right?" I'm like, "No, I have no idea." "Did you ever hear of Michael Eisner?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's the guy who owns this place, is the president." And she just laughs and goes, "Well, they sent Jim Washburn from Burbank to open the studio. – He's the boss of all the bosses. He's Michael Eisner's number one guy. I'm like, oh, well, that's nice. Well, yeah, he's the one who hired me. And literally everybody in the office started treating me like a king after that because they thought I had something in with Michael Eisner.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway, yeah, that's how I got my start at Disney.
How the thing that would most excite you and I about Jim Washburn was he directed the Paul Lynde Comedy Hour.
There you go. That's it. There you go. He was a bit of an old timer.
Did you end up staying in that position for the duration of that shoot? I assume it was probably a couple of weeks, even though it's boiled down to look like just a day or so on the special.
So what's the timeline on the special versus when MGM opened? Like, when did they film that versus to the opening day? Like months before? Like when was that?
We opened the studio, that TV show we did, and then they were open, like 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later.
Okay. And then so after that, that's when you started doing all the different shows on property there.
Well, you got to remember, I got fired from Disney. Jim Washburn hired me as a freelancer. I didn't even know that until the third show.
Oh.
That I'm like, wait, I don't have to go to school? And I'm like, wait, I don't have to follow that commitment, that contract I signed for 4 years? And I was like, well, let's just see where this takes me. And that's what I was doing. So I became freelance kind of without even knowing it. And then the next job I had, they asked me if I wanted to be the lead craft service guy because, I learned what Sally did, and she was from Nashville, and they didn't want to keep her around. So they asked me if I just wanted to do it on my own. And I said, yeah, sure. But I learned enough, and I met all the people at the studio, and they thought, well, let's give Chris a shot. So the next job I did was the 4th of July special. I did like 4 of those. So that was my next one. And then I think the next job I had was like Teen Win, Lose or Draw or something like that.
I love that show.
I'd have to look at my resume. I have it all written down. I've done probably like 500 different shows in my career. So, yeah.
Actually, we saw you had a photo from Teen Win, Lose or Draw on your page. That's how I initially found you. So
me and Mark Price, what a character. Me and Mark, we're the same age. We're both young, guys. Just I won't say much more about that. Let's put it this way: we hit Church Street Station quite a lot and caught some trouble. So.
Excellent. So then you were working for that department.
Yeah, I ended up working for Film and Tape for 6 years thereafter, and I was lucky enough. I got to work on everything that came into the studio. I did craft service for about 1.5 years. Commercials, press events. I got a nickname when I was doing Crafty I was called the International Ice Thief. So here's one of those, the Disney execs didn't like to hear, but I did it anyway. When I'm doing Crafty, I didn't want to buy ice. I didn't like buying ice. I thought it was a waste of money because you got all these ice machines all around the parks. I'm like, let me just go fill up a couple of coolers with ice. There's no reason for me to have to buy it. So, I figured out a way to go behind Epcot Center, and I would hit all the different lands and fill my coolers with ice. Canada, France, whatever other lands are there.
Right.
And I did that for about 6 months, where I'd have my Disney badge on, and I would just pull up my little van with my coolers, drag them in. I knew exactly where all the ice machines were in all the different lands at Epcot. So I would be in and out within 2 minutes, if that. And then finally, I got busted by the manager in Canada that said, "Where's your work order?" I'm like, "What work order?" He goes, "You can't take ice without a work order." I'm like, "Why not? It's frozen water. It's just water, isn't it? I mean, why can't I take ice?" I was arguing with her, and then she finally is like, "Who's your supervisor? Who's your manager?" And I was like, oh, so she ended up calling Film and Tape, and then, I got in trouble, and they said, "Chris, please don't do that again. If you need ice, we'll just give you a work order." I'm like, yeah, but it's just frozen water. Who cares, And then all the PAs around Disney were like, "Oh, that's the International Ice Thief. He got busted for stealing ice over in Canada."
I get the origin of the name now, yeah, because you're going to Canada, and that's awesome.
Yeah, all the different places there. So, so I did that, and then about a year and a half into it, I kind of got bored with doing craft service, and I wanted to do something else. And the Muppets were coming to town, the Muppets at Walt Disney World. And I talked to Matt, who was my supervisor at Disney at the time. I said, Matt, I really want to stop doing craft service, but I want to be on the Muppet Show. Can I do that? Can you get me on the Muppet Show? Because I love the Muppets. I grew up with the Muppets. I was just a Kermit freak for the Muppets. I loved them. So Matt set me up with an interview with Martin Baker. He was Jim Henson's executive producer at the time. So I was the first local person to be interviewed by Martin. So I go in there, and Martin's talking to me about this, that, and the other thing, and I'm jumping out of my seat trying to tell him how much I love the Muppets, and I know all the stories, and I know all the characters. And he's like, "Yeah, Chris, obviously, I see that." And then,
just take it easy.
And yeah, take it easy, kid. I get you. And then he said to me, he's like, "Well, it looks like you've been only doing craft service. Is that what you want to do in like your career?" And I said, "Martin, I really don't know. To be honest, I don't know enough about this business to know what I want to do." And he's like, "That's interesting. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. We're going to hire a lot of locals. So I'm going to hire you as a floater PA." And I'm like, all I heard is, "I'm going to hire you." And I'm like, yes. But then he's like, as a floater PA, you're going to work, it's a 10-week production schedule. And each week you're going to work in a different department. 1 week you'll do wardrobe. 1 week you'll do art department. 1 week you'll be a camera. 1 week you'll be grip electric. Because Florida was a right to work state at the time. So I was allowed to do that, regardless of the union situation.
Right.
So he basically hired me as a PA for all these different departments. And then at the end of the show, he's like, "So when you're done, you come back and then we'll have a nice conversation and tell me what you want to do." And I'm like, "All right, great."
Well, yeah. How great was that?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I went and I did all these different jobs. One of the jobs I did was transportation. So I had to drive motorhomes for the talent all around to the different locations we were at. And, one night we finished shooting, and I got into Charles Grodin was one of the actors that was on the show. So I got into his trailer, and they asked me to move it behind Epcot Center because we were going to be filming at Epcot Center the next day. So I get in, and I'm driving it through the park, and then I go up, over the roads, whatever, in the back roads. And then I park the motorhome. And just as I park it, I noticed a funny smell. And I'm like, something's not right. And, it smelled like an electrical thing, like something was burning, but there was no smoke and there was nothing burning. And I thought, well, those motorhomes sucked. So I was guessing the engine just was overheating or something. So I just left it, and I just parked it behind Epcot Center and walked away and went back. And then I got a call at like 5 a.m. from my production manager going, "Chris, were you the one that drove Charles Grodin's motorhome behind Epcot Center?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" "It burned down." I'm like, "What do you mean it burned down?" "Chris, there was a fire at Epcot Center last night, and Charles Grodin's motorhome is literally just burnt to the ground." I'm like, "Oh my God, you got to be kidding." And he's like, "Yeah, did you notice anything? Did you do anything?" I'm like, "Yeah, there was a funny smell, but I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything smoldering or I didn't see anything burning." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And that was sort of the end of that. And then we all went over there and took pictures with it.
Was it behind Canada near the ice dispenser?
Yeah, we tried to put ice on it, but it didn't work. No,
International motorhome burner.
Yeah. So that was Charles Grodin's motorhome.
Oh man, there's a great picture of it too on your site. It looks like they literally just grabbed like some random motorhome from Fort Wilderness and like gave it to the stars. It wasn't like a big fancy Airstream or anything. It was very
nothing fancy. These motorhomes were used for years. Yeah.
Did you end up enjoying that shoot since you wanted to work on it so badly?
Oh, yeah. Let me finish that story. So, yeah, it went great. I love the Muppets. There was one day I was on the stage, and I was sweeping the stage, and Kevin Clash, he played Elmo, but he also played a lot of different Muppet characters on the Muppet Show. So Kevin came out to the stage, and I'm sweeping, but then all of the characters, the puppets, are sitting on sticks on stage, and there's nobody around. It's just me. And I'm looking at the Muppets, and I'm like, wow, there's Kermit, and there's Miss Piggy, and oh my God, this is great, you know? And Kevin came out, and he said, do you want to try one on? And I said, excuse me? He's like, yeah, hold on. So he takes Kermit off its stick, and he's like, here, hold your hand up. And I'm like, no way. And he's like, way. I'm like, oh my God, okay. So I put my arm up, and he slips Kermit on my arm, and I'm like, oh my God, I have Kermit the Frog on my arm. It was so freaking awesome. I can't even tell you. And you know, I know there was controversy with Kevin Clash many years after that. But yeah. Kevin was a really nice guy, and he was just really nice to me, and you know, he showed me all the different puppets, and I got to play with the two old guys up in, you know, the old men in the theater.
Statler and Waldorf, yeah.
Yeah, I was messing around with them. I was even creating voices for them, and Kevin was like, "Wow, you're pretty good. You should think about this." I'm like, yeah, maybe not.
All of those Henson generation puppeteers, I had occasion a couple of years ago to have a conversation with Jim Martin, and they're so personable and so nice. Jim worked on that special too. He had some stories to tell from that production. All those Henson people, though, were so nice from the era when Jim was there.
Absolutely. And Jim Henson himself was an amazing human being, because we had a production meeting, and in the production meeting, all the heads of departments were just yelling at each other about budgets and schedule and, you know, typical production stuff. And then Jim walks in, and everybody just kind of quiets down, and he just smiles. And all he says is, so what's everybody want for lunch? And it diffused the entire room to the point where, you know, everybody just started working with each other and said, you know what, it's fine. We'll make it work. Don't worry about it. Yeah, Jim was an amazing human being. So let me finish the Martin Baker. So Martin Baker hired me, as I said before. The show is over. I drive Jim Henson and the director to the airport. I come back to the production office. Martin calls me and says, Chris, I've heard great things about you. You did a great job. Thank you so much. So now that you've worked in all the different departments, what do you want to do? And I looked at him as serious as I could. And I said, Martin, I want to do what you do. And he looks at me and says, but Chris, you've never spent any time with me during the show other than when I hired you. You don't know what I do. And I said, oh no, Martin, I know exactly what you do. Anyone that has the power to give a kid like me the break you gave, that's what I want to do. And he was floored.
Wow. That is okay. So A, that is incredibly profound. And B, clearly that lady, when she said, don't use this as a stepping stone, knew more about you than you knew about yourself at that point.
Oh, that's when I realized what you had said to me. I'm like, oh, now I get it. Okay. So Martin gave me an assignment. He said, Chris, for the next 10 years of your life, if you want to do what I do, then what you did here, you need to go out and do on a movie, a TV show, a commercial, a music video, a sitcom, a documentary. Go do everything. Be wardrobe, be art department, be this, be that, you know, do everything you can in 10 years. And I guarantee you'll be one of the best producers in town. And that's exactly what I did. And my resume is all over the place, but it's all over the place because of what Martin told me to do. That is part of that training helped me when I worked with Jim Cameron on his underwater documentaries, because I was his fixer. I basically got everything done that needed to be done. And whether I knew how to do it or not, didn't matter. Figure it out.
That's great.
You want to hear about the illegal things I did at Disney?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So while we're working at Film and Tape, we did all the press events that came in from all the international facilities and, you know, stations from all around the world, you know, Disney's 15th anniversary, 20th anniversary, et cetera, et cetera. And we would get assigned parking passes by security, because, you know, that's the only way you could get in and out of the parks and the security the gates and all that stuff. They never gave me enough parking passes. So one day I just grabbed one of the passes and I looked at it. I'm like, you know what? I could do this. I can make these. So I started counterfeiting parking passes, but I only gave them to production. You know, if a PA needed a parking pass, I'm like, here, just give it back to me. So I kind of signed them in and signed them out a little bit, but I made enough of them so I never had to go without. That went on for probably about 3 months, 4 months. And then I started getting a little cocky and I started creating something called a gold football. Now, the gold football is in the cars for VP and above. So only the executives got the gold football. And that would allow you to get full access anywhere you want to go behind the scenes of any park, wherever, whenever.
So if you want to go park in the Tomorrowland parking, you can just pull right up into Tomorrowland and park your car there.
In the backstage, behind everything. You know, if you wanted to go in the tunnels. No, this was access. This was like full employee access, or even better than employee access. You could go to places where people weren't allowed to park cars, and you would see an executive's car with a gold football on it. No one would question it.
Main Street, USA.
Yeah, pretty much. So I got cocky and I started making gold footballs. Well, one day I put a gold football in my car because, you know, that was me. I'm like, I'm going to play gold football boy for a while. And I went back again. I always got busted at Epcot Center. I don't know why. I was going back Thunder Mountain Space Mountain. It was Space Mountain. And the security guard looked in my car and said, "Why do you have a gold football?" It was the first time that anyone's ever asked me that. And I said, "What do you mean?" "Well, you know, gold footballs are only executives are supposed to have those. And you seem a little young for an executive." And I'm like, I'm just borrowing my boss's van. And he looks in the back and goes, "What's all the coolers and the Coke and the water bottles? It can't be your executive's car." I'm calling my supervisor. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, damn it. So they called the supervisor. He came over. They grabbed my gold football. They started running it on the computer. And then 4 more security officers came over, and they surrounded me. They would not let me leave. And I heard one of them say, "I'm calling the sheriff because this is theft."
Oh.
And I'm like, hey guys, wait a second. There's no theft. What are you talking about? You know, well, who's your supervisor? And who's this and who's that? And I gave them all the names of my bosses. And then Matt had to drive over from the studio and pick me up. They confiscated my minivan with all the drinks and the food and stuff in it.
Oh my God.
And now this is Disney security. We're on property, so they have full jurisdiction. So Matt says to me, "Chris, what are you doing?" And I told Matt the whole story of me making fake car passes and the fake gold footballs, and he was so pissed. So I had to go and talk to Bob Allen. Bob was running the studio at the time, or like studio manager or something. And they said Bob got a call from security saying, "Chris, they want to call the police. They want you arrested because they see this as theft, because technically you could put visitors in your van and get them into the park for free by using this gold football." And I'm like, "But Bob, I don't do that. I'm driving a minivan with coolers and coffee in it. Give me a break." And he's like, "Yeah, Chris, I know, but that's the way they think." So Bob says to me, "I'm taking care of this. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out." I told him I'm suspending you for 2 weeks without pay. And I was like, "What?" And he's like, yeah, "Don't worry about it. I'm not going to suspend you. You're the only one doing this. So just don't do it again." I said, "All right, Bob, I promise I won't do it again." So as I'm walking out of his office, I remember, I'm like, "Oh, by the way, Bob, you have one of my gold footballs in your car." And he's like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, you remember 3 months ago when you got a rental car and you forgot to take it out and you needed a new one? Yeah, that's mine. Pretty good, huh?" And he just looked at me and shook his
At least they didn't recognize you as the ice guy.
The ice guy was different people, different security. But I told Disney at the time in 1989, 90, 91, it was the wild, wild west for film and tape, because Disney-MGM Studios had just opened up, and we were the kings of that studio. It was a studio at the time before it was a theme park. Now it's strictly a theme park, from what I hear. I haven't I haven't been down in years, so I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Film and Tape we got everything. Anything we needed to do, we got to do, and it was a lot of fun because that's what lured the studio needed top filmmakers to come in and work at the studio so that the tourists would have something to look at, something to see, something to watch,
Right.
Now when you've seen obviously a lot of studio work, television, film, things like that, when you compare to what you know now to what you saw then at the studios, was it complete BS? Was it like a full attempt effort? Like what? Because I always I was at the age where I went there and I was like, wow, this is like I'm really on a movie set.
Oh, everything was real that we were doing. I was the assistant to Leslie Bellsberg when Oscar, Sylvester Stallone's film, came to town. So I worked with John Landis.
Oh wow!
On his movie Oscar. That's as real as it gets. I mean, I got to meet Steven Spielberg, George Lucas. I spilled a bottle of water on Terry Garr. I ran over Leonard Nimoy's foot when a golf cart. I mean, it was very real. John Ritter was an awesome guy. We joked around a lot. I have a picture with him, when him picking his nose, trying to flick it at the camera as he's taking my picture. No, it was 100% real. It was all, cameras, everything was real about it. As a matter of fact, that was the one real thing about the park when it opened, is that it was a working studio. And it was a studio before a theme park.
Did you guys? It seemed like you guys got the best of everything that was current at the time.
Pretty much, but we Chapman Leonard, Dolly's, they were on the property. Post Group, obviously, we had our own post facility there. So, and then camera rentals, we had our own camera rental department, grip electric department. Everything. It was a fully functioning studio when it opened. And a lot of different shows. We did Michael Jackson was there, and when we were doing, I think it was Let's Make a Deal. Michael Jackson tried to use the bathroom on the Let's Make a Deal stage, and security turned him away. Well, no, they turned him away and said, "You can't use this bathroom because you're not cleared." And his whole entourage was like, "But it's Michael Jackson." And the security guards were straight up going, "No, I'm sorry. This is a game show set. And because the contestants need to be sequestered away in their dressing rooms, we can't have anyone access the bathroom that you want to use. So please just walk around the building and there's a bathroom on the other side."
That's awesome.
That's cool.
How did you run over Leonard Nimoy's foot?
He was doing some interview with a press event, and I was coming around the corner. He had just finished, and he stepped away, and I was a little terror with the golf carts. And, I didn't see him. He didn't see me, and he was like, "Ah!" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And he's like, "Well, you got to watch where you're going." And he's like yelling at me. I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And then he saw I was just a young kid, and I felt bad. And he's like, "Oh, it's okay. It's all right." And I just drove away. It's pretty funny.
Do you play the lottery? Because every story you tell, you should have been out of the entertainment industry before you ever got in it. And it just keeps, it keeps working out for you.
Listen, innocence is a golden in this business. You just play like you don't know what you're doing, and people let you get away with certain things. Vanna White was awesome. I mean, she was everything that you ever imagined. I mean, she was just a Southern girl, sweet as can be. I mean, she was just gorgeous. She baked a cake for us. It was awesome. Yeah, and then I accidentally ran over Pat Sajak too in the hallway.
Yes,
that happens.
Yeah, he's not as nice, but I can't really get into that part of it.
He kind of seems like he would be that way, but yeah, we won't talk about that.
Yeah, well, yeah. Anyway, there's a few negative stories like that.
Plus, he's probably 5'3" or something, so it's probably easy to run over him because he was not very visible.
Well, again, I was coming around a corner and he was, and we just kind of slammed into each other.
Yeah.
He had a gold football on a golf cart, just hauling ass around the corner.
I did a lot of parades. I did a lot of the Easter parade and the Christmas parade and the 4th of July specials. I worked a lot with Regis and Joan London and yeah, I was actually Joan London's talent PA. I babysit her kids when she was on set.
Okay.
But Joan Lennon was awesome. I loved her. But for me, working at the studio, that made me the person I am today. And the one takeaway I have is that a lot of people go to film school to work in the film and television industry. My film school was Disney-MGM Studios. That I give all the credit in the world to the people that worked there and that I worked with, and on all the experiences and opportunities that I had at the studio at the time. And if I ever stand up and win an Emmy or an Academy Award, I'll thank Disney-MGM Studios.
We hear that a lot from, it didn't operate that long as a production studio, but the people that work there, Hal's been talking to people who worked in the animation side at the animation studio that used to operate there, and they are so passionate about that Florida studio and the work that they did there and the impact it had on their lives.
You guys, I'm still friends with all of the same people that I worked with on that show. And by the way, there's some famous production guys now. You don't know this, but Shark Tank, one of the executive producers is Clay Newbell. Clay was my production coordinator at Disney-MGM Studios. He was a Jungle Cruise tour guide.
No way.
So Clay's the executive producer on Shark Tank, and he's done a lot of big TV network shows. Jonathan Taylor, who happened to be the nephew of Jim Washburn, he produced the Osbournes. He's got 2 Emmys for the Osbournes.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
And then Brent Wilson, one of the other guys I worked with, he's just finished producing a music documentary about Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys. That's getting a lot of acclaim. So yeah, we all did something. Yeah, one of our TDs, our technical directors, was a guy named Larry Gaetano, and I think Larry works for. He's in Washington D.C. doing like NBC News, but he's like the head TD guy for NBC News. Working with all the presidents and such. Yeah, there's a lot of us. Luckily, some of us moved on to a lot of bigger and better things.
Oh yeah, but it sounded like it was a great place to cut your teeth on stuff and get that experience and then parlay. Because otherwise, if you're not in California, if you're not in California or Vancouver later on, it's like you're just not going to have the opportunities to get into a big market.
Yeah, no, totally, absolutely, and that's what was great about Disney is because, and Florida is that it was a right to work state. So you could work on a union show, but you didn't have to be union. And they'd bring you into the fold, but I'm in 3 unions because of Orlando. I'm in the costume designers union. I'm in a IA union and like a production coordinator union or something like that.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask you. It's like, did they end up trying to recruit you? Because that was the big draw of Florida. It was a right to work state, so you didn't have to necessarily hire union talent. But it sounded like there were some around, and then they would probably try to get you in as they could.
No, they did. Yeah, and I did. I signed up. We did a show called Fortune Hunter. And I got into the art department, whatever union they were. I got into them because of Fortune Hunter. And I also opened up Universal Studios too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was I was a talent handler for Sylvester Stallone.
Okay.
Well, it's Orlando. I mean, there's not that much production. You get whatever you can get.
And yeah, you were a freelancer, so.
Yeah, exactly.
So you truly have done everything.
Pretty much, yeah. I even did hair and makeup once on a show.
Really?
Yeah. The hair and makeup people, they got sick. There was a flu going around or something, and we didn't have anyone, and they needed touch-ups for the talent on set. And I've been watching for years, hair and makeup people do touch-ups, and all their gear was still in the trailer. They just weren't there. So I grabbed their stuff and I said, here, I'll do this. I got this. I've been watching it long enough. I think I can do this. So I did hair and makeup on for like 3 days till some of the people got back.
Nice. Oh, and did you do a music video like they told you?
I did. I did a music video for the Mickey Mouse Club.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it was with Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears, but they were little kids. They were like 10 years old.
Right.
I did some with Taylor Dane. I did some with Debbie Gibson. I did some stuff with her. all those 80s type stars. Oh, one of the early jobs I had was I was the assistant tour manager for the New Kids on the Block.
Oh, there you go.
No way.
I met them. They came and did a Disney special. It was like Disney meets the New Kids. And that's how I first met them. So I did that show. They, again, I was similar ages of the guys. And they decided to bring me on, and I went on tour with them. And it was insane. Absolutely insane. And I still have memorabilia from the New Kids, and it's pretty funny stuff. I got a few pictures. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
It just sounds like you ended up having a really great life from. And can you imagine if you just went into management and just managing some hotel somewhere today instead?
I can't even tell you where I would be if it wasn't for me getting pissed off at my supervisor at the dish room.
Well, Chris, thank you. This has been absolutely wonderful, and thanks for sharing all your stories. And we will definitely be back in contact again with you for some more stories later on.
You got it, guys. I love talking about this shit. And if I find, I actually have a ton more. I'm a hoarder for paraphernalia, and I have every single production badge. I saved them all from when I worked on the backlot.
Oh, cool.
Right.
Sweet.
We might need them for our MGM 30th anniversary event, so we might borrow them from you.
And if you can make us one of those gold footballs.
Yeah, sure. All right, guys. Well, take care. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
All right, Chris, I really thank you very much for that interview. It was really awesome to hear all these wonderful stories. And Hal, thank you for setting that up. A really great job getting this stuff together.
Oh, my. Couldn't
it's
resist.
The perfect companion guide to our game show episodes,
Yes, and with Chris's experience, I knew there would be some real chestnuts in that interview, which he did not disappoint.
So, well, thanks again to Chris, and don't forget we're gonna have another guest interview coming up in a few weeks. We're gonna be speaking with Jim Sarno, and you're not gonna want to miss this episode coming up. It's another mini episode before we get to our big celebration, which we're gonna talk about in a second. But what do you guys think about the interview coming up with Sarno? If
you like The Land, or you like Journey into Imagination, or if you like people who do things that they're not supposed to do,
and you like stories about out of school about classic Imagineers and things that went on in Imagineering,
yep, you're gonna like
especially if you like Purple Robots too, I think,
or Teddy Ruxpin,
Teddy Ruxpin.
I mean, I can't think of a single thing on that list that someone who listens to our show would
know. Exactly.
It's like there's a Venn diagram.
It's all there.
All of
there are a couple people, though, Hal, that when I said purple, they almost lost it because they thought I was going to say purple dragon, and I said purple robot. So, there probably are a handful out there. But don't worry, purple dragons are coming in the future, but we got a purple robot to talk about first. So look for that. That will be episode 43.75. And then we are preparing a very special celebration episode, specifically around somebody's birthday, right, guys?
Is it mine?
Sorry, you're not 90 yet.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
So.
Then you must be talking about 90.
Yeah.
Huh? 90. I don't know. Who's 90?
Well, we're going to be taking you back to Mickey's...
Betty White? Is it about Betty White?
Betty White. We're going to be taking you back to Mickey's birthday land in celebration of his 90th birthday coming up this November. So you want to definitely look in your podcast app exactly for November 18th. That's Mickey's birthday. Well, we'll be taking you back to Birthday Land, which then became Mickey's Toontown Fair and Starland. And there was another name thrown in there that we're going to talk about that not many people remember. So we're going to talk about that as well. And how we got what Mini Moo to talk about, right? Mini Moo,
Grandma Duck's
temporary tents. I mean, things that weren't supposed to last.
Super buildings made out of crappy plywood. You name it. We got so many wonderful things. That stage show, which actually was pretty good. I've got
video of that. So got play.
Oh yeah. I used to have a thing for that blonde that used to be in that, but we won't talk about that.
One person we spoke to a while back was in that show, and we should try to touch base with her and find out if she'll give us a behind-the-scenes tour of what it was like to work there. So we'll see.
Oh, that
see
would
if we
be
can get her on the show. So
I hope it's not her because then I'll be.
It might be. It might be.
And it's not often that a land gets its own train station.
That's true.
And
Yep.
and this one got its own train station.
It changed an opening day attraction. How's that? In more ways than one over the years. So
we're gonna listen to that Birthday Express song like 400
oh my gosh.
times.
Can't wait.
All those candles.
Can't wait.
All right, well, that was for Mickey's 65th, or I'm sorry, that was for Mickey's 60th that we're going to talk about. He's now 90, so that dates us back 30 years ago.
It's crazy.
Yep, we'll take it back November 18th, 2018.
He doesn't look a day older.
Well, let's be fair. I mean, he was pretty creepy looking for like the first 40 years that he existed.
he had to put a little
until they started rounding him out.
Had to put a little meat on the bones.
Yeah.
Do you think he got some of that Dick Clark stuff?
Yeah, that's probably it.
He did get a little sly and cool there in the late '80s with his jean jacket and sneakers.
Maybe he's like that. Maybe he's like that mouse from the Green Mile that's just going to live for, for hundreds of years.
Well, set your clocks. November 18th, 2018, episode 44, Mickey's Birthday Land will be arriving in your inbox. Until then, we'll see you then. Give us a shout out on iTunes if you can. Send us any of your questions and comments to podcast@retrodwdw.com. And until next time, Brian, take us out.
Follow Todd McCartney and Retro WDW on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Retro WDW. For all things Retro Disney World, including exclusive merchandise, visit us on the web at RetroWDW.com. On Twitter, follow our web designer Jason Bartell of Deepwater Studios at JasonDWS, our announcer Andre Gardner at Andre Gardner, and follow our hosts Hal Bowers on Twitter and Instagram at GoAwayGreen, and on the web at KingdomofMemories.com. For JT Cougar on Twitter at LS1JT, on YouTube at Rubber City Motoring, and on the web at RubberCityMotoring.com. And you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Brian P. Miles.